Hello and welcome. In this session, I want to show you a scenario in the MigrationWiz AD migration project where we are taking identities and going from Entra ID into a local AD. Now, if you haven't watched the AD to AD or the Entra ID to Entra ID videos, then I suggest you do go and look at those just to familiarize yourself with the product and how it works. But in this session, I want to show you some of the unique items that will be in the Entra ID to local AD project so you can see how that all hangs together and works. So in MigrationWiz, we'll go ahead and start the Active Directory project. And we're going to give it the project name and customer as normal. But in this case, we'll have the source agent type as Entra, and the target agent type will be Active Directory. So it means that when we go to our next step and we put in the endpoint, we actually only have to put in the endpoint in here for the Entra ID. Obviously, the local AD doesn't require a SAS-based endpoint. So putting those first details in for the admin username and password. I now put in the client ID, the directory ID, and the client secret. Now, as I say, the other video that you would have seen, the Entra to Entra one, explains exactly how this is all set up and configured, the permissions and everything that's needed inside the tenant. So please have a look at that one if you need to understand that, or just have a look at the documentation that is in the Help Center for these different project types, and that'll take you through this setup. But for here, I can just take those values and now paste them in. And of course, I'll copy that API key. We're going to need that when we set up the source and the target agents. But here now I just go down to next step, and you can see it's jumped straight into the database region settings and the UPN suffix because it knows that the target is local AD. It doesn't require any of the other application IDs and the like as well. That's why that section is now missing at the top, because it knows that. So I'm going to put in just West. I'm going to use a item here. We'll put in Migration Frog as our target and save and go to summary. And save project. Now once we do that, it's going to take us to the normal screen and we're ready to bring in those objects from the Entra ID, the Cozy Mouse source that we set up. Now we download the agent from the main screen. We get it onto the DC, or the machine that you're using to connect to your DC. It has to be in your local environment, obviously. And therefore we can then set up the credentials to get into the MigrationWiz console, which we do on this first screen. So here's the MigWiz account that I've got set up. That'll take us into the part which is going to ask for API. Now I've used this agent before, as you would know, on the other project, so I can now just go and erase those and put in the correct details, the API key from the new project we have, and also the project name, which I do like so, and hit next. And that will bind itself to that and gives us the entry screen, which will be for the Entra. So I'm going to say I just want users for this example, and we'll say start, scan, and transmit. That will then grab all those users out of the source, and you can see there it says it's done 46 AD objects, and they should appear now in MigrationWiz console. So let's jump back there and hit refresh and see if they are. So back here, just the refresh button. And there we are, there's our 46 accounts, as you can see down the bottom here, 46. So let's have a look at the target setup now. Now this being the configuration for the same agent we used on the last project. So you're going to see, as I go through, we log in as our normal MigWiz account there. But you can see it's still got the details from the last one, which is great. Again, we will just get rid of those. But I'm going to put the API key in the project. And when we come across to next, it will then ask us for the credentials for the local AD, and you can see I've already got those set in there. That's my service account, that's my obviously password, and the domain that we are going to be connecting to. So this is DC Migration Frog, DC.com. That's the distinguished name that you get from the Active Directory. Now let me just show you quickly where that is, just so you can tell. If you look at the Active Directory, you can see here's my Migration Frog. We must have advanced features turned on, as you can see there. But if you just right click on the top level here and hit properties, go to attribute editor, and you'll find under distinguished name, there's your item. So it is quite easy. You could copy and paste that, as you can see there, and I could then go in there and let's show you that there, paste it in over the top. Now if we hit next now, it'll then set us into that heartbeat setting You can see after it actually logs on to AD. There we go. And back to our little heartbeat setting. Every 300 seconds, it's going to look for work to do and write things into the target AD. So back here, you can see I'm going to pick this person, Alison Crocodile, and you can see here we've got some different properties that we want to make sure come across, and hit close there. So we're going to take that and just say we are going to write to target. Now before that, I do obviously want to have a quick mention on the matching criteria and the transformation options that you have. So if we go to the edit project, go to advanced options and have a look at matching criteria, it is important that you make sure that this is set correctly for your situation. Now in the last video, the Entra to Entra, I do go into that in a lot of detail. That is still relevant when you're going into a target AD as well as into an Entra ID, because the matching obviously is a vital component to make sure you don't bulldoze over the top of accounts that are already there. So do that, do it with a small amount of test users first, and also do the simulation inside the console as well, and look at the logs to see exactly what will happen when you perform that migration. So that's something to be careful with. I'm going to use UPN prefix because it is the default one. It's the easy one to use. Quite often in a live migration, we'll probably use something like one of the custom attributes or the employee ID to do proper matching across. But please pay attention to matching criteria and look through the other video as well, because like I can't emphasize this enough. This is very, very important for the success of your project. So we jump back and we'll hit the tick box for Alison and we'll write to target. There we go. And start migration and hit OK. Now the nice thing, of course, being the agents that live on the DCs, we don't have to wait for the back end to pick anything up and process. So you can see it says awaiting write to target, but that's just awaiting for the DC here. If I go into that, you can see now it's got 150 or so seconds to go. I can say trigger manual heartbeat now, and that object will be written to AD immediately. Basically, you can see there one AD object, check in, write user, Alison Crocodile. So if we go in here now, and let's just do a refresh on the AD structure, like so, you'll find there's the new one that's created, cloud users, and there's our user, Alison Crocodile. If we go and have a look, you can see there's the properties we set with the different address and the account and details there, even down to organization. So all the properties have come over. So really you have a live account. Now, what I want to show you next is that because when it writes the account, it grabs the object GUID and it binds it into the database. So it knows where that is going to be when it looks for it later on. So if we were to move Alison out to a different OU, let's put her somewhere else, and we run a further update, we update the source with some properties and we rerun it, it will still find that user inside the AD content here, even though we've moved it away from the OU that it's expecting, because it, as I say, it binds itself to the object GUID, and therefore you're free to move these accounts around as much as you like, and they will still get updated from the source if you tell it to. Now, supposing we didn't want it to write into that OU, let's hit a refresh here, we can see what it's done. There we are, successfully written to target. Now, if we hit the item here, you can see that's where we can change where it lives. If you want to change it for multiples, let's say I bring in these three as well. Now I could go and click on one of those, and I'll call this one mouse test, like so. You'll see it update on all of them. I'm actually going to grab those three again. I'm going to perform the migration on those ones. We'll say write to target. There's our three. Hit OK, and they'll once again go awaiting write to target. Now very quickly we jump back to our DC, and if I were to hit the manual heartbeat again, we should be picking up 4 objects. There we go, there's 4. There's the new objects that it's found, and also the update for Alison, because obviously we've already written her. So if we look here now and just hit a refresh, you'll see there's our new OU, the CM test, and you can see there's our accounts there, and of course Alison stays where she is. That's where she's been told to migrate to. So as a quick check on that, if we were to move Alison, let's say we move her down to this one here, the MigFrog. So yep, and you can see now she lives in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the properties of that user in the cloud. So let's take Alison's account here. We're going to make a small change to it. Let's go into the contact information here, and we're going to change the job title slightly. Hit save, come out of there, and jump back to our normal DC, and we're going to rescan those items, get that updated information there. And there we go, that's been sent. So back in MigrationWiz, if we click on Alison here and have a look at her properties, you can see there it is. That's the change that we've made. So that's come through correctly. So now we're going to let that write out. Now, as you can see, the continuous sync is turned on here, which means that we don't have to do anything with triggering that migration. It will just happen on its own inside that the DC that has the target agent on it. Now on the DC here, I'm going to say trigger manual heartbeat. I want to see that one go through. And you'll notice that Alison is updated, exactly what we expect it to be. So that's good. But we did move her, remember, out of the cloud users. So if I say refresh here, she's not back in here. She hasn't been put back, which is correct. She's still going to be in here. Migfrog, there she is there. So we'll go into that record and I want to see if it has successfully updated properly. And if we look at the organization, you can see there it is, job title, food eater expert, which means then that no matter where we put that object inside the local AD, once it's been migrated over, as I said before, as long as the object GUID is bound like it is, you'll find that that will follow that around and be able to update accordingly. So thanks for watching. That concludes what I want to show you about the Entra ID to local AD with the MigrationWiz project, and I will see you again soon.